And we're live! Welcome to RockSim Live. I am Tim Van Milligan. I am the host of this episode today. It is Friday, March 15th, 2024. I think this is episode number 159. Not exactly sure on the episode number. We have the chats going, so if you have a question about RockSim or RockSim Pro or the launch visualizer, please go ahead and put that in the chat right now. And if you're watching this on replay, go ahead and put your questions in on our website, and so we can answer them the next episode, which should be next Friday. I have a monitor right here. That's why I keep looking over this way, and I'm looking for questions that are coming in, and I'm looking for people that are here. And we have Stuart LaFond. He says, "Hi, Tim from Vermont. Yahoo, our club launch tomorrow." And we have Stark03. He says, "Hi, Tim from Florida." So welcome, gentlemen. Yeah, Stuart, I am jealous because we were supposed to have a launch tomorrow, and it's not happening. Mark Sell from Parker is here, Parker, Colorado. Yeah, let me show you my screen, and I'll show you what it looks like outside here right now. That is what happened over the last 2 days, and it finally stopped snowing after about 31 or 32 hours of straight snow. And yeah, it was just, we're going to be digging out for a little bit longer. We're not having FedEx come picking up our packages today. Yesterday, we didn't ship anything at all because the roads were just, nobody could get in or out. Our staff here at Apogee, it was so bad, and this is so rare that we only had a couple of people that were able to get in, but we couldn't ship anything out. Today we got some more people in. The roads were still pretty bad this morning, but people did make it in. Our staff is great, and I appreciate them for that. Getting here safely and eager to help you out, get the packages out. So yeah, but FedEx is not picking up today. So after this, I think I'll be going down to FedEx to drop off the packages, so that your orders are delayed as little as possible. So, yeah. So welcome to snowy Colorado. We're always in a drought. We're in a semi-arid desert here in Colorado. So we love it when we get moisture, but I could have used just a couple inches at a time, over several days, rather than getting all dumped on at once. I still got to go home and shovel my driveway. So my back is already hurting. Johan is here, and he says, yeah, daylight savings time difference. Yeah, we're on daylight savings time in the United States. I don't know. Johan is in the Netherlands. He says 2 weeks to go for us. So yeah, I like it. There's a bill moving through Congress, we hope, that will make daylight savings time permanent, so we don't have to flip back and forth. And I'm all for it because I love daylight savings time. I don't like the standard time where it's dark at night and it's, I like to go home and have some daylight left after work. We have Chris's Rocketry and More from Golden Valley, Arizona. So welcome, Chris. I'm looking for questions. I'm looking for my RockSim question. So if you have a RockSim question, go ahead and put it in the comments. So that's what Colorado looks like. In fact, I put on our website, due to a major snowstorm that started yesterday, and it finally stopped. We're kind of delayed on orders, but we are getting them out, and we should be able to be all caught up by the end of the day. We hope. I'm crossing my fingers. Yeah, we don't, we know, especially this time of year, there's that the American Rocketry Challenge going on, and every school waits till the very last minute to make their orders, and we know that those are important, and we're trying to get them out as fast as possible. Even though we get them out today, they still have to go by the carriers, and I don't know if the carriers are getting their trucks out of Colorado. But once they're in the pipeline, it's out of our hands. We can't do anything. Everybody calls us out and asks us, "Where's our order?" And if you have a tracking number, that's your evidence that it did ship. We don't generate tracking numbers artificially. We get them from the carriers, and yeah, I've been answering a lot of phone calls recently. It seems like there's been a rash from every shipper that they're just delaying shipments, and people are calling us up and asking, what can we do about it? And I don't know. I can't do anything about it. Marcel says, design a snowplow rocket. I don't think I could do that. So if you're brand new to RockSim, it's here on our website. If you go to our website, there's this banner bar here, and it scrolls through, and you can just scroll to you find it where it says RockSim version 10. You can just click on that, and that will take you to where you can download a free trial right here. It's when you can upgrade from version 9 to version 10 here, and you can do that for free. And you can also, if you go to the how-to and guides, come down here to software, click on that. Again, you can get the free trial right there. You can purchase it. You can see what it is, what the features are, the frequently asked questions, what you can do with it, the system requirements. Does it run under your operating system? Yes. Version history, what we've changed, RockSim video tutorials. These are more the official ones. What I'm doing here is it's official, but it's not like where we start out with brand new Rocketeers that have never done RockSim before, although we're happy to answer those questions. But this is, RockSim Live, and, we get a lot of hard questions here about people that are doing really interesting things. So we try to answer those here, but beginner questions are welcome too. So if you have one, go ahead and put that in the chat, and I will get to that in a second. RockSim Live Training is what we're doing right now, and when you click on that, it will take you to this page. This is our archives, and we're a little bit behind, but that's okay. We've been busy. We'll get the other episodes that we missed archived here, but this is kind of like what we've talked about in the past. You can scroll through and say, what's the biggest motor you can put in the Kronos? If you're interested in a specific topic, like say you want to learn about decals, do a Control F on your keyboard, and that's to do a find. If you're on a Macintosh, it's Command F, and it will bring up this little window right there, and you can type in decals or something that you're interested in, and it will find that RockSim Live event that we did that talked about it, and it gives you a timestamp in it. So these are all logged onto YouTube, so you can always go back and watch them again. So that is where you find RockSim and find our past episodes. What else can I tell you about the website? Not much, really. Starco3 says, I am still getting wins in the launch visualizer I did not enter. Once I saw 17 miles per hour winds I did not enter. At times the rocket is drifting in the wrong direction to my entered wind. Okay, so he's in the launch visualizer, so let me open that up. Come on, go away. So the launch visualizer, let me open up a Chrome window. So there's the snow once last, and hopefully it will melt and it will go away, just like that. But our rocket launch, which is why I was so jealous of Stuart, our rocket launch got canceled for this weekend because with that much snow, the field is going to be really muddy and they don't want us driving our cars on it, even if it did melt off in time. So, yeah, I've been to one launch so far this year, and I'm getting launch withdrawals, like many of you. Got to go out and launch. So, Sturko3 has questions about the launch visualizer. So the launch visualizer is our cloud version of RockSim, although in the cloud you can only simulate, you can't design a rocket. So let me log in here. And I'll use this account. I got multiple accounts. What am I doing there? There we go, sign in. Okay, so now I am signed in, and once you're signed in, if you come up here, you'll see that you're signed in, what kind of user you are. I'm a premium user, and I got 11,036 credits. Each credit is worth 1 Newton second of power. So a C engine is 10 Newton seconds. So I can do probably like almost 1,000 C launches, C engine launches. All right, so let's run a simulation. So first you have to choose a design. He didn't say. Let's go with a bigger rocket. So something that's going to go a little bit higher. Let's go the Apogee Aspire. This is one of our higher flying rocket, single stage, because it can use a big motor. So this is what it looks like. And you can see this is in 3 dimensions. And this is kind of a mock-up launch pad just to kind of show which way the wind direction is coming from. Right now, if I look at it from straight down, we can see the wind is coming out of the west, blowing across the grass right there. So to set that up, first you need to, so to do a launch in the launch visualizer, we're going to go down this column of buttons here. So the first one is to pick a rocket. You can also upload a rocket design. These are RockSim files. So you design it in RockSim, or you can download RockSim files from the internet, like the Apogee website. We have a ton of them there. Then you go here to launch site, and you have to pick a launch site. So this is the default site. This is our default site in Pueblo, Colorado. There is the current launch site. And if I zoom out a little bit, you can kind of better see the lay of the land. We've got our entrance road to the launch site, and here's our parking area, and the pads are over here, and we have a little outbuilding right here. This image is a little bit old. It's from Map Tyler, because we have another boxcar from the railroad sitting right there where we store our launch equipment in. But this is good enough for running a simple launch. So that's the default site, and if you want a different site, you can zoom out and you can see, here's the United States, and all these thumbtacks are launch sites. These are NAR. The NAR are the red, and the blue are Tripoli, and the green are your personal websites, launch sites, not websites. So this green one right here was the NARM 63 contest range. This was a site. This was a club site. And I'm not sure what the club site is in Missouri, but it was a beautiful site. It only had one problem, was that like over here, somewhere over here, were a whole bunch of windmills. And what do you think happens when there's a bunch of windmills? They put the windmills because that's where the wind is. So it was kind of breezy, and the wind was kind of blowing this direction. So we're going to say if north is straight up, the wind was kind of blowing to the northeast. So to set that up, let me put my launch site. So I'm going to put my, I double clicked on it, and that's going to be my launch pad right there. And I'm going to confirm the launch site down here with this button. And when you confirm it, it grabs the coordinates of that launch site. So it grabbed the latitude and the longitude and the altitude above sea level. That's what ASL means. The landing zone altitude, this is in meters, but if I change it to feet, you'll see it's pretty close to the same. Okay, so now we're going to set the starting state. Right now we're launching straight up and we have the wind coming out of the west. So Sturk 03's question is about wind, so let's talk about wind. So they're in the launch visualizer right here. We have a couple of different ways to set the wind. The first is down here. So you can set the humidity and the temperature and the barometric pressure right here. Here's our wind model. So if you click on the down arrow, you can see that there's 3 different choices. No wind, a steady wind, so that the wind is blowing the same no matter what altitude the rocket is. And then we have variable direction wind table. And this is the advanced setting. But first let's go through the steady wind and we'll show you that. So when you click on that, it gives you this screen where you can say what the wind speed is. Let's call it 5 miles an hour. Hit tab. And then the wind direction is a compass direction. So here's a compass. You can see up at the top, you have north, and right above it says 0 degrees. South is 180 degrees. So east would be 90 degrees, and west would be 270. And so you can see right now we got it from the 270 direction. And if you want to change it, you can just take this arrow right here and grab it. And we said that on our simulation, we want the wind kind of blowing to the northeast. So I'm just going to take this arrow and just drag it around. It's kind of like a compass dial. I made my cursor so big that it's hard to find the hot point on it, but you can see I'm spinning it around. And you just point it in the direction you think the wind is going to be blowing. And so if I say this is from the 227 degree direction, and I'll say OK. And if we come back here to this map, you see now, previously the wind was coming out of the west. Now it is coming out of the southwest, and it's blowing across the rocket. And normally for a rocket that's asymmetrical like this one right here, the direction that the rocket is oriented shouldn't matter. It matters when you got rockets that have like wings on it. So you can also change, let me make this smaller. If I come back here to the starting state, I can change the roll direction, so I can roll the rocket. See, if you watch here, you'll see the rocket is spinning around. So just orient it the way you want. So you can see the launch lug right there. And typically, I'll put the launch lug, or the wind will want to rotate the rocket so that the launch lug is on the side facing the wind. And that's just typically what happens when you put a rocket on the rod. It usually blows that way, on the opposite side of the launch lug. So we'll leave it like that. We've already set the wind direction. Let's put a rocket motor in there. So we want to go really high. So I'm going to choose an engine, and I am going to go up here to search. I'm going to look for the F10. There it is from Apogee. And the reason I chose this one, because if I put this the motor in the rocket, it's going to go really high. And let's call it an 8-second delay. So we have an F10-8 motor in this. Click OK. So we've gone through all these buttons here so far. This one is the flight events, so that's when the parachute and the streamer are coming out. And right now, this design has both a parachute and a streamer. So it could be set up for dual deploy. So I don't want to deploy the parachute, so I'm going to say no deploy on that. And the streamer, I'm going to deploy at maximum engine ejection. So we don't know if the coast time is going to be too fast or too slow yet. We'll figure that out once we watch it. So maximum ejection delay means that it's going to use the motor's delay. And remember, we set this motor at an F10.8. So the ejection delay is 8 seconds. 8 seconds after the motor burns out will be when the streamer comes out, is deployed. And you know, there is a slider down here so you can see things if you want to change things. So just want to show you that. Interesting. I don't know why that's not showing up as a streamer. Okay, so when you're ready to launch, you just click the button down here to launch, and it will bring up this screen right here telling me how many credits I'm going to use. So an F10 is 77 Newton seconds of total power. So I'm going to use 77 credits out of my 11,000. So I still have plenty. So I'm going to simulate, and it's going to run the simulation in the cloud. And this will be a good time to take a sip of water. Okay, so it's redrawing the rocket on the pad, and I'll just zoom out so that we can see the lay of the land. So the rocket is right there. I'm going to spin it around here with the compass, so I'll put north straight up. It's a little tweaky. Come on, stop spinning. Giving you vertigo here. I want to just put that arrow towards the top. Okay. So our rocket, where's our rocket? It's still right there where my pointer is. It's just a little dot right now. Down here we have the view window, just a larger view of what's in this main screen. But I can zoom out here, and this one stays the same size, so we can kind of see the rocket. So now remember, we said we have the wind coming across kind of towards the northeast. So if everything is set up correctly, we expect the rocket to go up, and I'm not sure, it'll probably weathercock into the wind, so it should probably start going this way. But then once the streamer comes out, it should drift that way. So that's how we can confirm everything is working. So let's launch it and see what happens. So we see smoke coming up out of the ground. So the rocket's taking off, and you can see smoke is still coming here. And the rocket is still burning. This is a long burn motor. Okay, so now it's coasting and should coast for 8 seconds. So it's still going up. It's getting close to the top. And okay, and right there is when the streamer came out. And I'm going to pause it. And the rocket is like right in the middle of, oops, where did it go? Let me do that again. So there's the rocket, and I'm just zoomed in really close. Let me zoom out. There's the streamer hanging on the rocket. And I messed up my compass when I hit the button. So I'm going to go to the 2D. And so where's the rocket now? It's right there. We're looking straight down on the rocket. You can see this thing that's going horizontal here is the streamer, and we're looking down on the rocket right there. Let me back out a little bit. Remember, this right here is smoke. It's still the smoke that hasn't blown away yet. We kind of paused it, so that's what that's going on. I'm going to go up here to settings. I'm going to turn on a couple of things. I want to turn on the trajectory path. So this is the path of the rocket from the ground to where it is currently, and it will be a green line. And I'm also turning on the ground track. So this is, if you drew a chalk line on the ground where the rocket is straight up above your head, and you walked with the rocket along the ground, that's your ground path, the ground track. And I'm also going to turn on the extruded flight path, which is like a curtain of lines coming down from where the rocket is along the ground path. And it kind of gives you a more visual three-dimensional image. So when you rotate around, you kind of keep your perspective. So I'm going to turn that on, and I'll click OK. And wait a minute, I didn't turn on the extruded flight path. There we go. All right, so there's the pink lines, and now I zoomed in too much, so let me zoom out. Okay, so right over here where my cursor is the start of the green line. So the rocket, it did arc into the wind, and it was going into the wind, and now the streamer is out, so we expect it to go back this way, and I'm going to speed up the launch. Okay, so right now the rocket is always centered in the middle of the screen, and I'm going to see if I can rotate this way. All right, so now you can kind of get a better perspective. So this green line, which cuts right through the curtain, is the trajectory on the way up. This green dot right here is the apogee point. So it reached the apogee point, and then it's got this descent on the streamer. And the streamer is going to the northeast like we expected. And if I drag it all the way across, you'll see where it lands. So it landed, beautiful field here. There's nothing there to hit, but it's about 858 feet away from the launch pad, which is right there, is where our rocket landed. And we can zoom in on that and just confirm that, yeah, that's where the rocket is. There's our rocket, and if we rotate it around, you can see it. It's standing up on the ground. Okay, so that was the simple wind model. So now we're going to do an advanced wind. Once you close that window right here, which is underneath my face, there's this red full screen mode. This toggles this screen to full screen or not. And I just untoggled it. So that's what I did there, in case you're watching here, and my face covers that button. Okay, so let's go to the advanced wind model. So we're going to go to the launch conditions, and this time we're going to go variable direction wind table. Okay, so right now we have 0 wind, so our altitude at sea level, and this is the altitude at sea level, and this is our wind direction, and this is the velocity. So our current rocket altitude sitting on the launch pad is 1,069 feet. So if we were to add wind right now by checking that box, now we have 0 wind at sea level, but we're at 1,069 feet. So you have to remember that when you start adding wind. So I'm going to click this little button right here to add another table. And this time I'm going to use this number right here, 1,069 feet above sea level. That's what ASL means. And I can change the direction. Let's call it, what did we say before, 227. And we'll call the velocity, let's call the velocity 5 miles an hour. And click OK. So now that's, I didn't want to close the wind table. So now we have wind at the ground, but right above the ground, we haven't specified anything. So we need to specify something, because if we run it this way, we don't know what the wind is above our heads. So since we don't know what it is, let's see what the simulation does. So let's just run a quick simulation. And I'm not changing anything. The rocket is still pointed straight up. And right now it's showing the wind out of the north. I think it's showing because it's at sea level. But let's launch it and see what happens. Simulate. And we got a lot more questions here. Johan wrote, a couple weeks ago, guy asked if Open Rocket had launch visualizers thing. And I have no idea because OpenRocket is not our product. I heard OpenRocket can now also import, export 3D print files. I still use ancient version. I have no idea about OpenRocket, but if you want to do 3D print files, you can do that in RockSim. You can export, you can't import. And I kind of doubt OpenRocket is importing too, because that's kind of, you have to import a mesh, which is kind of difficult. Carlos in Marietta, Georgia says it's 72 degrees and overcast. Yeah, it's 34 degrees here. And Terry says, look out for the hail. Okay, so this was our new launch, and we set the wind at 5 miles an hour coming out of the 227 degree direction. So that's pretty close to what we had before, but we don't know what the wind is above our heads. So we'll just launch it and see what happens to the rocket. The rocket looks like it's going pretty straight. I'm going to pause it. Let me just drag it out here. And okay, so let me zoom out. And it looks pretty similar to the last launch. So, all right, so now we know what's happening. We set 5 miles an hour above the launch pad as well. And it's pretty close to where we landed before. So, okay. So now we're going to make the wind aloft different. Okay, so now this rocket, it went to an altitude of 4,729 feet, and this is measured above ground level, AGL, not ASL. So we started out at 1069, and now we're at 4729. So let me get a calculator there. 4729. So 4729 plus, what do we say, was it 1,069 feet? So the altitude the rocket reaches is 5,798 feet above sea level, even though we're launching at this altitude here. Oops, not this one. If we come here, variable direction, 1069, so I was right. So I'm going to add some more wind. So to add more wind, I'm going to click plus. And so our new altitude, and remember, this time it's above sea level, and our peak altitude was almost 6,000 feet. So I'm going to say at, so I got to take 1069 and then add a new altitude. So I'm going to add 1,000 feet to that. So 2,069 feet, which is 1,000 feet above ground level. Let's give it a new direction. Let's call it 180. Come on. 180 degrees. So this time it will be coming from the south. And let's call it again 5 miles an hour. Click OK. Yep, click OK. And it added the new wind. So let me go back just to verify. Variable direction. Okay, so it's 269, 5 miles an hour. Okay, so now let's launch it and see what happens this time. Again, we have to use 77 credits, but we still got plenty, so we're going to keep going. We can do this all day long. Okay, so there's our rocket sitting on the pad. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go to this view. And this way my camera won't swing around on me so much. Okay, so north is pointed straight up, and our rocket is, this one time I can do find the rocket. If you click on the button and nothing happens, that means the rocket is dead center in your middle of your screen. So there it is right there. Okay, so the rocket's going to take off. We launch it. It's going up, and it's going really high. It goes out of our screen, so we got to back up. Okay, so now we can get a better view. Now we're like too far away. rocket is coming down under the streamer, and I'm going to speed things along by grabbing it and sliding it to the end. Okay, so now this trajectory looks different, right? And so let me zoom in. So here was our launch point. That's where the pad was. The rocket went up that green line right there. And what's interesting, that I want to look at, is the ground path. Because the wind is blowing the rocket around. So when the rocket first takes off, the rocket arced into the wind, and it did. Let me swing this around to the north. I'm interested in the red line right here because this is the ground path. And so the rocket, you see that the red line is no longer straight. It started going towards the south. And when it took off, it was going this direction, but then it started going to the south. And that's because our wind, as the rocket was ascending, started shifting to the south. And so then it weathercocked towards the south. And then at this point, it was its highest point in the flight. And so it's seeing wind coming straight from the south. And you can see, not quite north here. I want north straight up. Come on. Here we go. So this red line is blowing straight north. And at some point, the rocket starts descending and it gets below 1,000 feet. And below 1,000 feet, now the wind is coming from a different direction. And so that's why, as it gets closer to the ground, it starts curving around towards the northeast again. See, you can see the rocket is coming down, getting closer to the ground, and then lands right there. And you get this nice little curvature as the rocket is spinning around. So that's kind of really cool, isn't it? So let's add some more wind and see what else it can do. So let's go back here, variable direction. And so let's go another 1,000 feet up. So let's say 3,069 feet, which is 2,000 feet into the air. The wind is going to be coming from the 90-degree direction, and it's going to be blowing at 5 miles an hour. So now the wind is coming out of the east. Before it was, at liftoff, it was coming from the southwest. Then it swung to the south, coming out of the south, and now it's going to be coming out of the east as we get higher up into the air. This is kind of like shear layers here. And we're going to add another one at 4,000 feet. 4,000, oops, come on. Four thousand 69 feet, which is 4,000 or 3,000 feet above sea level, or 3,000 feet above ground level. Let's say the wind is coming out of the north, so now it's swinging around even further, and we'll call it 5 miles an hour. And we'll click OK, and let's launch this one, see what it does. Okay, so let's go 2D. So now we're looking straight down on the rocket. North is straight up. And I'm going to go 2D again, go back to where I was. And there we go. Okay, so the rocket is like right in here. And what we're interested in is the ground path. Let me turn off the curtain, the extruded flight path, so that we only get red and green. And the rocket is launching and it's coming right at us. It's getting closer and closer. And you can see this is the smoke trail right here. It's coming towards the south. And we hit Apogee, and now it's coming down. And I'm not going to wait 175 seconds, so I'm going to speed it up. Okay, so look at that ground path. You can't see my red line because it went underground. I'll have to turn the yellow or the pink back on. Okay, so the rocket took off right here. If we look at it from straight down, it arced over to the south. And then because anything above 3,000 feet above ground level, the wind is coming out of the north. So the rocket got pushed to the south because the wind was coming out of the north. But then as it got closer down to the ground, then the wind started shifting from the east and then from the south. And then finally, as it gets closer to the ground, it comes out of the southwest. And so you get this, like this really cool flight path from this particular rocket. So you can do some really cool things. And basically, we just use 5 miles an hour. If we would have changed the speeds at the different altitudes, which is typically what happens, you wouldn't get this nice curve like this. It would be a lot more stretched out. So the wind from my simulations here seem correct, what I would expect to see them. So Stark 03 says, once I saw 17-mile-an-hour winds, I did not enter. So I don't know where that's coming from, because I've never seen a bug in this program that would cause just random wind when you're in the advanced wind setup. Okay, so let me see what other questions in here. We have Reynos MIK. He says, hey Tim, looking at getting my level 2, do you have any tips for studying the test and building a strong rocket? Okay, so studying the test. So there's kind of a couple of questions. Oh boy, that was slow. Let's close the launch visualizer and see if that speeds things up a little. So the test, depending on your NAR or Tripoli, let's call it the NAR, the NAR.org website. And the NAR website is a little bit slow. Okay. So here's the NAR website, and you want to go down to high power rocketry, high power resources, high power rocketry, technical reports, members, oops. High power rocketry certifications. Okay. High power level 1, high power level 2. Okay, so here's the high power level 2 written exam study guide right there. So I would start right there if you wanted to study for the test. It's a PDF. So it's got 4 sections, A, B, C, and D, and you're going to get 10 questions from section A, 3 from B, 24 from C, and 3 from D, for a total of 40 questions out of the 100 that they have listed. And you need at least 35 of them correct on your written test. So here are this is the study guide. And the test will use the same questions, but you don't know which one you're going to get because the tests vary, but the study guide has all the questions in it. It's kind of like your driver's test. According to NFPA 1127, a launch site is defined as containing areas for which of the following activities? Launching, recovery, parking, or D, all of the above? And the answer is D. See, it gives you the answers too. So this is what you're going to be studying. All right, so now his second question is, any tips on building a strong rocket? So that depends on the rocket kit that you use. If you want maximum strength, I would suggest a rocket kit that we have at Apogee, and he says level 2, called the Level-2. And this is the rocket. It's a level 2, and it was designed to help people get their level 2 high power certification. And you can see, what it looks like. You can see how big it is. It's a 4-inch diameter rocket. That's me holding it. That's what it looks like on a launch pod. That's what it looks like when it's taken off, when it's going out of sight, and when it's coming down. Now, this rocket is designed for dual deployment, but you do not have to do dual deployment on your level 2 certification. I would recommend that you don't, and just fly it as a single deployment parachute. So if you were to fly this as a single deployment, what you would do is, instead of attaching this big parachute here to the nose cone, you attach it to where this small one is attached. And then you just tape the nose cone on so that, and then you don't put any electronics in your eBay. And it will just deploy the big parachute right here, and everything comes down as one piece. And the reason that I suggest that you don't do dual deployment is that it takes a lot of complexity out of the process. You're just flying a single deployment rocket. It's going to go high, and it's going to deploy the parachute really high, and you may have to walk a little bit, but you don't have the complexity of doing dual deployment. And so it's much easier to get your level 2 certification. Just going through some of the pictures here. So that's what the eBay looks like. It's all fiberglass. The electronics are not included, but that's what it would look like once you put your electronics in there. You can see all the parts here. Everything is fiberglass. So if you want the strongest rocket, this is it. It's all fiberglass. I've crashed these things, and one time my parachute didn't fully deploy, and so it came down rather hard, but there was no damage. There was just some dirt on it that just buffed it right out, literally. And if to see how high it's going to go, you could just scroll down here on the website, and there is a motor chart. I'm getting there. Here's all the parts again. Okay, so here's the motor chart, and this is a big chart, and you can see the different motors. So here's the J motor, and these are all recommended motors. So if you wanted to use a J180T, that's a Blue Thunder motor, it would you're going to go to an altitude of approximately 4,100 feet, almost 4,200 feet. So on a J motor, it's not going to go out of sight. So don't have to worry about dual deployment. And you could remember when we were just in the launch visualizer, that little rocket that we flew went higher than this. That one was over, close to 5,000 feet up. This one is, 4,200 feet up. So it's not going to drift too far. It does have a big parachute on it, but it's not going to drift more than, I would estimate maybe a half a mile at the worst, depending on the wind and how you angle it into the wind or whatever. So I would suggest flying it for your level 2 certification without dual deployment. Once you get your level 2 certification, yes, do dual deployment, because then you won't have to chase nearly as far. and it's a lot more fun and it's a lot more challenging. But you don't have to worry about getting your level 2 certification at that point because you already have it in your pocket. So you can check out the rocket here, to see how high it's going to go with the different motors. And these are all motored. If it's in this chart right here on this page, and this goes for any kit, you'll go to the page and you'll see a chart and you say, yeah, can I use that motor? And the answer is yes. We've simulated it with that motor. And it'll tell you what delay you need to set the ejection charge at. So, typically like this J275 has a 14-second delay, and you'll adjust it down to 12 seconds. And that will get you pretty close to Apogee. If you don't want the level 2 rocket, another rocket that we have that I would recommend is called the Katana. So just in the search bar here on the website, just start typing in Katana, and it will bring up the Katana. And this is another high power rocket. Now this one is not fiberglass. This one, the tubes are cardboard, and it's got a plastic nose cone and plywood fins. And just kind of show you what it looks like. This one's actually a little bit longer than the level 2. And it shows you, it's got dual deployment as well. It's got an eBay. And there's the nose cone. And I'll scroll down here. And we're getting there. This is what dual deployment is all about. So you don't have to chase your rocket as far. So here's the parts. You can see the cardboard tubes and all the plywood fins and the plastic nose cone. Parachutes, it's got 2 nylon parachutes. It's got heat shields for recovery. They're no longer black, now they're orange, so that makes the visibility even better. It's got vinyl decals. And again, it's got a motor chart. And let's scroll down in this chart and find, the J180. This one is also going to go about 4,700 feet. So a little bit higher, not too much higher. The other one went like 4,200 feet. This is 4,700 feet, almost 4,800 feet. So it's a few hundred feet higher because it's lighter weight, because the cardboard is not as heavy as the fiberglass. So that's another one that we recommend. So hopefully that answers your questions. Terry Wheelock says, can we simulate thrust vector control rockets? And the answer is no. We cannot simulate those because at that point you would set it up, the launch visualizer is designed for rockets that are unguided. If you already know what direction your rocket's going to go, you can just do that. Arc Bolter says, is there a recommended source to get actual wind table inputs for different elevation on launch days? There's a website that I like. There's more than one, but this is one that I use. It's called windy.com. And if you go to windy.com, you see these arrows moving across. That's the wind. That's the current wind. And right now I have it at surface wind. And I believe these are color coded. So the green right here is a higher, so down here the green is a higher wind speed than the blue. So over on the other side of the mountains, so here's Colorado Springs, the mountains run right along here, and over on the other side it's like really calm, and it's actually warmer. on the western side of the state it's 50 degrees. Yeah. So here's Colorado Springs. Our surface wind right now is somewhere between 10 and 20. And if I move this slider bar here, this is at 3,000 feet above sea level. You can see that the winds are different. Sometimes you can see wind shears. If you watch these currents and you start changing things, you'll see that sometimes the direction might change. Like here at 5,500 meters, now the wind is changed to that way. We're at lower altitudes, and the winds are a lot gustier at that altitude too. And so down at surface level, it's a lot lower. So I like this. Obviously those are really high altitudes, and that is because they take wind for airline pilots, and they're concerned about the winds at different altitudes. For us, I would like to know the surface wind at 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet. But this is, you get what you get, So this is a nice little website, and it's free, called windy.com. And you can see it's for anywhere in the world. You can, if you were over in the Netherlands where Johan is, I think I zoomed in too far. So here's the Netherlands right here. You can see his current winds. You can see coming off the North Sea. Is that the North Sea? Yeah, we got some wind blowing over that way. Ron's Rockets says, I believe there's 100 questions in the test A and 100 in test B. Yep, I think there's always going to be 100 questions. Sturk03 says, how would you add a tracker to the plastic nose cone in the Katana rocket? How do you add a tracker? Okay, so let's go back to the Apogee website. And we have an eBay for a 3-inch rocket, not a 4-inch rocket, but you would do something similar. So under electronics and payloads, we would go to electronics bays. And now these are sorted by smallest to largest. So I need to go to 3-inch. Okay, so here is the 98. Okay, so 3-inch thin wall nose cone eBay. So this is, you're going to need something like this. And the way that we designed our 3-inch one is it's got the sled, and then it's got a bunch of rings right here. One of the rings gets glued into the base of the nose cone. So you have to, so here's a nose cone. This is the 3-inch nose cone. And you slice off the back end. You still need to leave the straight section. And on our Katana, our straight section is actually pretty long. So you can slice it off, and then you would put a ring on it. And this one is designed to be twist lock. So you can kind of see the little engagement mechanism right there. And let's go to the next one. And you can see this is when it's installed. And so then it's inside the nose cone. This is a little close-up of it. And again, that's the sled that is removable. And it gives you the dimensions of the sled so you can figure out where you want to put your electronics. A tracker are typically pretty small. So this is what the thing looks like. It has 3 rings. This one is the part that gets glued into the rocket. These 2 get glued onto this sled. And just some close-up images. We don't have a nose cone eBay for our 4-inch nose cone that the Katana uses. But so you'd have to cobble something together yourself. I would use this as a pattern, but, and I know some people, they'll use some PVC pipe, some threaded portions of a 3D, PVC pipe I've seen people use. But there's a lot of room inside the nose cone where you can put an eBay or for a tracker. Okay, I think it is 3 o'clock, and I just want to make sure we got all our questions. Oh, Johan says, can you export out 3D printed stuff? Let me open a file here and then just show you what you can do. I don't know, let's open that TTV up again that we had earlier when we first started. So here's the TTV. So let me go to the fin and say we wanted to do the fin, launch log, that's the booster, we want the upper stage, sustainer fin. These fins, there's 3 separate fins here, and the reason we had 3 separate fins was because each fin has its own decal. And so in order to put a decal or to color it different, we had to make it colored. So I'm going to make the thickness thicker here. Let's make it 0.25. Okay, so I made it thicker, and those didn't look like they changed, so one of these fins changed. There it is, that fin right there. I needed to know which fin I was working with. Come on. If you lose your rocket, you can click on this one right here and say reset camera. I want to spin it around. There it is, that fin right there. See, the cool thing in RockSim, and this is coming, this is a new feature that will be in RockSim 11, is right here where you can come to the cross section. And right now we got a square cross section. You can see that, you know, if I look at that tip of that fin, I wanted to drag it. There we go. This is the tip edge of the fin. You can see it's a square cross section. I can make it rounded. You can see now it's got rounded edges. And then I can also make it airfoil. You see that? Now I got an airfoiled fin. And now the cool thing is you export this. So I hit the export button, which is right below, which you just didn't see. And it went behind here. So I'm going to throw it on the desktop. And I can save it as an SVG, or I can save it as an STL, which is 3D. So if I save it as an STL and I hit save, and I'm going to export it in high resolution, hit OK, and it gave me this pop-up window which said it saved it onto the desktop. Click OK, and if I go to my desktop, let me click this. Do I save changes? No. So we're on my desktop somewhere. I have to find my desktop. Here's desktop. So here is that fin that I just exported. And let me do it this way. Okay, so this is the STL file for that fin. You can see it is a 3-dimensional fin, and it does have that airfoil. So when you 3D print it, that's what you're going to get. Which is, you won't get from OpenRocket. It's a new feature. It's a very cool feature. RockSim 11 is coming really soon. We're putting the final touches on it. And I know I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now, but we're putting the finishing touches on the website so that we can sell it. Okay, so a whole bunch of more questions here. Reynos MIK says, just wanted to say, thanks, Tim. You're the man. We appreciate all you do for the rocketry community. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Alfred Indy says, he's talking to Rainius MIK. He says, I use the Estes Snaky Smoke to get my level 1, so I'm using the Zephyr for my level 2. It can be done. Yes, it can be done, but it's going to go a lot higher. I'd like to keep my level 2s low so that you get them back, and it takes a lot of the stress out of the process. Alfred Indy says, thank you for the instruction videos. Ron's Rocket says, what do you think about the new Estes Rail launch pad? I haven't seen it yet. I've only seen pictures, so I don't know how strong it is. Yeah, okay, so I think that's all the questions, and we are a little bit over time. So let me find my screen here and put that up. There I am. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. There's been a lot of people here again. More people, more names that I've never seen before, and I really appreciate it. I do this for you and for your questions. So hopefully I've answered your questions to the best of my ability. I will be back next week. So that next week is, if today's the 15th, so that's the 23rd. Is that getting close to Easter? I'm not sure when Easter's coming up, but I know Easter's coming up here soon too. And we might, that would be a Good Friday, so we might not be here on Good Friday. But I think we're here next week. So if you have good weather, go out and launch. For us, people that are snowed in, I got so much launch fever. How about that Starship launch yesterday? Was that cool or what? I was watching it here in the office, and I was going, ah, yelling and screaming, and somebody walked in and they looked at me like I was crazy. I was celebrating because it was so cool. So thank you, everyone, again. So I'm going to give you a countdown, and then we'll launch out of here. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go out and launch something.